Yeah, so in the last class we started talking about data visualization, where we said data visualization is a very, very important concept when it comes to data analysis, right? Is that thing that is that thing that makes that translates raw numbers, right, into into quick, not that word actually. I'm trying to look for a better word now. They try to give numbers this okay, they reveal quick insights that exist between different sets of numbers or categories of numbers, right? And of course, they don't just add beauty. It is very, very important to understand that the main aim of data and data visualization is not just to beautify the data, right? But to make data easy to understand for people. Of course, I don't know if I've said this once, but the human brain understands images faster than it understands text and the numbers, right? So let's just see some quick facts about visualizations. I don't know if I covered this in the last about data visualization. I don't know if I covered this in the last class, but I just want to say this quickly before I move into class. You see the processing, how the human brain processes, right? It processes this visual information faster than it does with text. Very, very fast. I wanted to get a number, a ratio, but I don't think I can get a ratio. Let me just do this facts about data visualization. Let me do this and see if I can get, yeah, 13 milliseconds. They say human brain can process an image in 13 milliseconds. That's far below a second. Far below a second. If I'm correct, that's like that 13 milliseconds now is like 13 times 10 to the power minus 6 of a second. Like that's how tiny a millisecond is. And of course, you can see up to 90% of the information transmitted to the brain is visual. So if you have plenty of information that you're trying to pass, you can have a very, very good table, frequency table, pivot table, all of those. But if you have a visual to go with, the brain understands visual faster. And of course, like I labored to explain to us that most people by average do not even like um they do not even like numbers by average, right? And so because we know that more people do not like numbers, we can do with visuals. Everybody agrees when it comes to visuals. Right? So why stress ourselves, for to talk about talk about numbers when we can actually visualize them for quicker insight, right? And of course, data visualization, like I told you, and which of course we call it data storytelling, is a skill, is a course on its own. It's broader than you think. I think there is a book called Data Storytelling. Maybe I'll share this in the video description or share it to the group. You find out that that particular book is about 200 and something, if not more than, if not up to 300 pages, just talking to you about data visualization. And it's not teaching you how to plot. I don't think they taught anybody how to plot visuals. It's just teaching you when to use this chart and when not to use this chart. What components you should have in a visual and what should not be there in a visual. Right. Even the summarized slide, I think, contains more than 100 slides. Yeah, more than 100 slides. Sorry. So data visualization is actually a major issue when in the data space, right? And so it's something that is worth looking out for us. And so we saw that we are going to be using three broad libraries, which are the Matplotlib, the Seaborn, and the Plotly Express. Like where I told you that Matplotlib is the grandpa of all of them. Seaborn, yeah, is an upgraded version of Matplotlib. Not really an upgraded. It was built on Matplotlib. But this time around to be able to support some statistical analysis, so visualizations, and to make also some visualizations easier. Right? It makes some visualizations easier. For example, it tries to um, when plotting plots like a bar chart or a pie chart, right? It tries to remove that necessity to, okay, sorry, Cbond does not support the pie chart for now. As of 2026 now, it doesn't support the pie chart. But when you're plotting a bar plot, you don't need to do a group by, right? It does a group by automatically behind the scenes. And when you want um, charts where You want the case where charts are interactive, and you also want where you can get effects like hover effects. I can you can use Plotly Express. So you can use any of them and still be uh, you can still use any of them and still be great at visuals. All of them have I think their own, I don't want to say strengths and weaknesses, right? But for example, I just mentioned that Seaborn does not have pie charts, right? And Plotly.express has a pie chart. But there are some things also that, as we get to see, we'll see that Plotly.express might not be able to do it correctly. But I actually prefer using Plotly in most cases because most of the visuals I use, Plotly supports them. And I also like that interactivity part of it. But sometimes I still go with Seaborn. So Seaborn and Plotly are the ones for me. It's not like I don't like Matplotlib, but I mean, I just prefer Seaborn to Plotly, right? Yeah, so of course, we're going to start with pie charts. So this video is just going to be dedicated to pie charts, and when we're done, we're going to look at bar charts. So we're going to look at pie charts, how to plot pie charts using Matplotlib, and also how to plot pie charts using Plotly.express, since Seaborn does not support that. And there is no better way to do this than to use our data set. I'm going to be sharing this data set, the cleaned version though, so you can go through it. I'm going to drop the phone number column. I will need you to create your own version of this notebook, right? So this is just to clean the data, right? But I will drop the clean version so you don't have to clean it. Since this is a data visualization class, we don't need to have to stress ourselves with the cleaning again, right? So this guy now is the cleaning steps I had to take. I renamed my columns, I saw duplicates, and I actually confirmed that this was actually a duplicate. I used the phone number column, of course. When I confirmed, I then dropped keeping the last, and of course I saw the dot describe, which actually showed me some components of the data. I don't think there is, based on the maximum here, there's nothing like an outlier here that I want. Even judging by the minimum, I don't think there's anything like an outlier. So I didn't need that. You can go through the notebook and, of course, make your own changes. I also clean the data as I saw fit, right? Of course, you see me do some things like chaining of functions. For example, here where I did dot str.title and I added another dot str.strip. Instead of doing it multi-step, I decided to chain them and do them at once. Right? So that is also possible. It's another thing. So some of these things I will be showing you one when we begin to, as we're going up, I'll be showing you some things that are possible with data cleaning. Right? I don't want to show you everything at the time. It can be so overwhelming. Right? So I'll be showing you one thing per time. Now, so having said that, because this is our clean data now, finally, it's our clean data, and that's what we're going to be using. And this exports to CSV. Of course, exporting data is CSV. If you want to save your data as a CSV file, you just need to call the name of the data set, that data frame rather, which is df in this case, and call it to CSV method. And then pass the first argument now is the name of the file. Right. So if you do this, it will create an export here for you that you can download. For example, if the exercise was only to clean data, you can save this data now. And I added this index equal to false so that it will not add automatically. If you are saving a data set, it automatically adds this index. This guy, it automatically saves with an index. But I don't want the index. So I'm just going to off it so that the first column will just be gender. If you save it with the, if you don't add index equal to false, it will bring this index to save together with the index. So that's why I did that. So dot to CSV method, then this guy, the name of the file, you can see I added .csv here, right? Then index equal to false. Of course, you can add index equals to true. There's no problem. But I just don't want to have that issue. So I'm just going to go ahead and run everything. Run. So while it runs, of course, as you can see up here, I've already imported all of the libraries I need. Of course, our NumPy and pandas. Then I imported Matplotlib as .pyplot as PLT. If you've not seen me do this, then please, this is how we import Matplotlib .pyplot as PLT. Then Seaborn, we import it as SNS. I have mentioned that it doesn't make sense, but that's how it is. Then Plotly.express as PX. Right. So these are the libraries we're going to be using for visualization: Matplotlib.pyplot, Seaborn, and Plotly Express. These are the big three guys. Of course, you might hear some names. Of course, even some that might come after this video is being recorded, but this, as of 2026, June 1st, 2026, this is what we have, the big three we have on ground for on as far as data visualization is concerned in Python, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the pie chart. So I'm going to use pie charts. So note that this is not the data analysis. This is just us trying to see how to plot various charts, right? This is not the data. Sorry, this is not a data analysis class per se. Maybe we'll have another data set to analyze again, but this is just for us to see different kinds of visuals. So we're not focused on step-by-step processes of seeing this data analysis or setting up questions. Of course, we have questions to answer. Because I will show us the questions as we continue to go. But I mean, in this particular class, what we are considering or what we are after, simply put, is to be able to successfully see these different kinds of charts, so that when we begin to analyze data in more advanced, we will be able to do more advanced analysis, right? Okay, who is this? You know what? Let me just go and turn this off. Settings. Okay, to go rest. Thank you. So, of course, pie charts. So, if you want to plot a pie chart, of course, you have to do like a group by, right? First of all, let's say we want to see the gender count. So, we can just use our df gender, right? And do our value counts. When we do this, what do we have? We have, of course, this guy, right? So, I'll just name this guy gender count like this, right? So, you can just check what gender count is. Because it will give me the same thing. So I just want to plot this guy. Of course, I just want to show you what you knew before I show you what it is that I want to show you now. Of course, we know how to do this dot plot, right? Then we pass in the kind of chart we want, which is what pie chart, like this, of course. Then if you want to add the labels, of course, you use your autopcity, right? Autopcity is equal to, that's in this percent, 0.2 f percent, I think like this, to give us this guy. So this is to show you that this is 2%. Two decimal places, if you bring this back to only approximate one decimal place, right? So if you want it to 4 decimal places, now you can put it like this to give you your value, your answer rather. So we have this. Now there are also other things you may want to see. For example, here, if we want to add what do you call it now? If we want to add a hole here to create a donut chart, you can use your wedge props. So you can check out this documentation online. You can just go and do plt.py, or you can do this is how to read documentation. Panda, since we know that once we create a group by, what it gives us is a series. You can do pandas.series, right? Dot plot py, like this. Just search for it online, right? And then to give you can go here, you can see panda series plots.py. So you can go here and read the documentation. You see a lot of things that I might not even be able to tell you. You see them here, right? You can see a lot of features, how to add your legend if you want, and bring in legend. As you can see, I did not bring in a legend in my own, right? You just need to pass in the index here, and it will automatically create a legend for you. Of course. So what do you call it now? I'm trying to look for. So there are a lot of things that you can see about this, and you can also check out, more documentation on Panda series or plot. But once you come back to learn how to read documentations, it's very, very important for you. And this is from Panda's, documentation, standard documentation, right? All right. So let's go back to what we have here. Wedge props. You can just pass in the width argument. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's the width. You can pass in 0.7. Let's see what 0.7 gives us. Now you can see, right, the size of this. Let's make it 0.6. And this looks great for me. So this gives us what? A donut chart, right? That's great. Now, this is not what if you use this by default, what works behind the scene is a matplotlib. Of course, somebody will say, we are supposed to add our title, right? Title, give you what? Title is equal to gender distribution. Then, of course, you can add your plt.show so that it removes these unnecessary writings, right? Then you can also bring in your x label, sorry, y label. We want to remove this guy. So we use our y label, we trick it into passing y label is equal to an empty string so that it will replace that guy. And we have our chart here, right? So behind the scenes, what this guy uses is matplotlib, right? So pandas plotting using pandas by default uses matplotlib. Of course, you can change the backend to Seaborn, to Plotly, to other things, but by default, the backend, what it uses in the backend to plot is the Matplotlib library. So why not we just learn how to plot with the Matplotlib directly? If you want to plot with the Matplotlib directly, you've already imported Matplotlib as PLT. So this will be plt.py, right? Then we pass in what we want. Now remember we've already done gender distribution, right? So we just do gender distribution. Sorry, gender counts. That's what we want to pass. So this will not be like the values, right? So if you just plot this guy now like this, see what it gives us. It just gives us this guy, no labels, nothing, right? So we need to pass in some things. For example, we need to pass in labels. Then when you pass in labels, what are going to be the labels now? They're going to be this guy here. Now, if you remember what I told you earlier, right? If you look at this guy will give us a series. The type of gender is a series. Let's check it out. Type. Let's see. So that it's not like I'm assuming. You can see pandas called series, right? So it's a series object. Now, one thing we know about series is that they have values. These are the values, and then these are what the indexes. So we're going to access the index now to pass it as a label. So we're going to call gender count. That was even why we needed to plot the gender. We needed to call this guy gender count so that we will not be writing the entire df gender count and the rest. So here we'll just pass in dot index, and let's see what this gives us. Of course, this gives us male and female, and you can now pass in your autopicity, your wet props, right? But title will not work here. If you try to add title in here, it will return an error, right? Because it doesn't support the title. So we can plot this here and can go ahead. I can go ahead and add the title. Now you have to pass it as plt.title, just like you did for everything, right? And then for the Y label, you also do this for it, right? So you externally have to identify them. So you call plt.title to plot the title, plt.y label to plot this guy. Then you run because you can't pass in the labels now and the title inside of this argument. You can't do that. You're not allowed. So this works, right? And of course, we'll see this subsequently. And this works for this plt.title y label works for Seaborn. That is how you add titles also in Seaborn and the labels and everything. We're going to see that going forward. And you can see that even when we remove this guy, automatically it doesn't come with any labels. It doesn't come with any label because it understands that it's a Python, right? Okay. Now let's go ahead to see how to use Plotly before this video becomes too long. Now we've already imported Plotly as PX. And of course, Plotly automatically has this pi. And then in Plotly, you don't need to use the gender count. You can use it, but you don't need to use it. You can call in the data frame direct to come and work, right? But you just need to specify some few things. You can see here, the first thing we need to specify is like a data frame. So we'll call our data frame. Of course, the name of our data frame is df. Then we pass in names is equal to gender. So that those are like our labels, right? But here you can also pass in your title because it does not take in it does not take in something like a plt.title. No. The px is not built on top of matplotlib. So let's do this. Then let's run. Let's give it some time. You see what I'm talking about, right? So you can see this now. Now look at this. Once I hover around here, can you see that we have some tooltips here? Right, that's one thing I like about it, tooltips. And it can automatically adjust. When I close this guy, see, it will automatically adjust and folds the screen, right? If I automatically open this Gemini sidebar here, automatically it will adjust and you can see everything. Unlike this guy here that is not adjusting. This guy is just constant. Anything that happens if you open, it still remains the same size. But this guy automatically adjusts the size. Right? And you can also check out some other things you can do here to add what do you call it now? To add to the code, to be able to do other things like okay, I didn't teach you explode from right side. I don't think I taught you explode, but you can also use the explode. Check out the explode. But since you have only two stuff here, I mean, sorry, two categories here, you can use explode. What explode is, let's see what it does first, so that I'll try to explode. Now you can try to explode the first one. I mean, first one, this first series now, and try to explode it by 0.1. Then you keep the other one at 0. By default, the explosion is 0. That's why all of them are stuck to each other. But you can actually remove the bigger one with the smaller one out of the slice. Sometimes people do that just to kind of create, let me just run this so that you see what I'm saying. Now you can see this small divide. Now, because of this donut, now it doesn't look appropriate that you do that. But let's reduce it to 0.05 and see this. Of course, I am not sure this looks great. But what if we remove the whole, that is the entire wedge props? What if we remove these wedge props and run this? Now you can see this looks great. For me, if you like, right? This looks great. So I mean, everything boils down to what and how you want to do it, right? So I'll just leave this guy now with, of course, the explode. You can also add the explode here if you want, but it doesn't look great when it's a donut chart. So here, if you also want to add the donut chart, you can just pass in the parameter hole is equal to, you can pass in the size of the hole as in radius. Let's pass it as 0.4, see what we get. Of course. And you can see dynamically it shifts these guys. Dynamically just adjust. This just looks cool. And you can change the colors, right? Okay, forgive me, I did not try to do this. Before we started chatting, we could just come here and add some things here like plt.style, like use. You've seen me do this already before. I will not put cbond, please. I'll use ggplots so that automatically all my codes will be styled using ggplot. And let me run all of these codes. You see that the colors are changing, but this, it will not affect plotly. It will not affect. You can see the colors of these guys have changed, and you will enjoy it better. So it does not affect plotly, and you can change these colors, of course, if you want. I think you just need to pass in. Is it color discrete map or color discrete sequence? I think you can pass it. Yeah, you can pass it, and there are a lot of things you can also customize here. Just go out and look at, check for them, and see how you can customize your charts more, more better. Maybe to increase readability of these guys. Maybe see how to change the font colors. And change, give these guys some colors, of course, for there. But I feel I'll go with this. And another thing I like about the plot today, apart from the ability to hover around and see tooltips, is that you can also, you see, when I click on this, it filters out the data based on what you have here. So if you click mail, everything here that will apply talk to you about mails. This will not make more sense until we begin to look at where we have bar charts, maybe multiple bar charts like clustered bar charts or stacked bar charts. Then you begin to see how it is going to filter for you based on some certain criteria. So by default, it does this, and very, very easy. I just kind of like plotly charts. I wouldn't say past what that is, and it just looks cool for me. Right? So that's that about pie charts. See you in the next video where we talk about pie charts in more details than like we did here in this video.